Long before the rise of empires, writing did not exist at all, until one specific civilization changed the course of human history forever. We call them the Sumerians, a people who emerged in the fertile, muddy river plains nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in Mesopotamia. To an observer at the time, this region might have looked like an ordinary landscape, but beneath the soil, something truly extraordinary was taking root. Small, scattered farming villages began to grow larger with every passing season, as families formed communities, and communities eventually blossomed into organized towns. Before anyone fully realized the scale of the transformation, humanity had successfully built its very first true cities, places like Ur, Uruk, and Eridu. These urban centers were unlike anything the world had ever seen before, drawing thousands of strangers together to live and work in close proximity. This rapid urbanization created a massive problem that humanity had never faced in its history. How do you organize thousands of people effectively? The challenge was simple but profound, because as the population grew, it became impossible for any single person to remember every single detail. The answer to this crisis was not found in stronger kings, larger armies, or even the influence of religion, but in the power of information. Consider the sheer difficulty of collecting taxes from 10,000 citizens, or keeping track of every trade agreement, field boundary, and harvest yield. Every debt, every transaction, and every promise had to be accounted for, but human memory was simply no longer enough to handle the load. Sumer needed a completely new way to manage its growing complexity, a method to store data that existed outside of the fragile human mind. So, around 3200 BCE, a nameless innovator picked up a simple reed stylus and pressed it firmly into a tablet of wet, malleable clay. In that quiet, unassuming moment, they unknowingly changed the trajectory of human history, creating the very first instance of written communication. Interestingly, these first written words were not grand poems, epic stories, or complex legal codes, but rather simple, practical lists for daily life. They were shopping lists documenting grain, sheep, and beer, serving as the world's first accounting records to keep the city running smoothly. Yet, those tiny, wedge-shaped marks evolved into cuneiform, the world's first known writing system, allowing history to finally learn how to remember itself. Writing solved the immediate problem of organization, but it simultaneously created another, even greater opportunity for the expansion of human society. Once information could be stored reliably, cities began growing even faster than before, as trade expanded and governments became significantly larger and more stable. Laws could now be made permanent, and knowledge could finally survive long after the people who created it had passed away into the history books. For the first time in the human story, civilization no longer depended solely on the limits of memory, but instead relied on durable, written records. Every major civilization that followed, from Egypt and Babylon to Assyria, Persia, Greece, and Rome, would inherit that single, revolutionary idea from Sumer. But writing was not the only miracle to emerge from this region, as Sumerian engineers also transformed the landscape through sheer human ingenuity. They dug enormous, complex canal systems that successfully turned dry, sun-baked plains into lush, fertile farmland capable of feeding a massive population. Their merchants were equally ambitious, establishing trade routes that stretched across hundreds of kilometers to exchange goods with distant foreign cultures. Meanwhile, their craftsmen developed bronze tools that were significantly stronger and more durable than the stone implements used by their ancestors. In the realm of mathematics, the Sumerians invented a sophisticated number system based on the number 60, a choice that still shapes your life today. Think about it: 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 360 degrees in a circle all trace back here. Without even realizing it, you are still using Sumerian mathematics every single day of your life, proving their influence remains deeply embedded in our world. At the center of every Sumerian city stood a towering, majestic structure unlike anything built before it, the iconic and massive ziggurat. This was a multi-purpose space, serving as a temple for the gods, a government administrative building, a warehouse for grain, and an observatory. Everything of importance happened within the walls of the ziggurat, where food was stored, records were kept, and taxes were collected by officials. Religious ceremonies were performed at the summit, making the temple not just the heart of the city, but the very reason for its existence. Yet, perhaps Sumer's greatest achievement was not writing, mathematics, or engineering, but the simple proof that civilization itself could actually work. They demonstrated that thousands of strangers could cooperate, that governments could organize complex societies, and that trade could connect distant, diverse cultures. They showed that knowledge could outlive generations, and that single, powerful idea became the blueprint for nearly every civilization that followed in their footsteps. Then, almost as suddenly as it had risen to prominence, the Sumerian civilization began to fade away, leaving behind only echoes of its former glory. Their rivers changed course, harvests began to decline, and the city-states fought one another until new, more powerful empires rose to take their place. By around 2000 BCE, the world's first civilization had largely vanished, its language slowly disappeared, and its kings were eventually forgotten by time. Their once great temples fell into ruin, and the desert sands began to reclaim the land where the first cities had once stood so proudly. Yet, something truly remarkable happened in the aftermath. The inventions of the Sumerians simply refused to die with their creators or their culture. Writing continued to spread across the ancient world. Mathematics evolved into new forms, and governments became increasingly sophisticated as time moved forward. Civilization continued to march onward, using the very same foundational ideas that were first imagined and implemented in the plains of Sumer. Today, the ancient cities of Uruk and Ur lie buried deep beneath the shifting deserts of modern-day Iraq, waiting to be rediscovered by us. Broken walls, collapsed temples, and thousands of clay tablets are all that remain, appearing at first glance like the debris of a forgotten past. But every time you write your own name, sign a legal document, or read a book, you are participating in a tradition that began here. Every time you measure the passage of time, or live in a bustling city, you are using ideas that were first perfected in ancient Sumer. The greatest mystery is not why the Sumerian civilization eventually disappeared, but why its core ideas have never truly faded from our world. Perhaps civilizations do not truly die when their cities fall, but instead continue to live on through the lasting ideas they leave behind. We are the beneficiaries of their innovation, carrying the torch of their original breakthroughs in our daily routines and our complex global systems. The legacy of the reed stylus and the clay tablet is still writing the history of humanity, even thousands of years after the last scribe. As we look back at the ruins of Ur, we are looking at the mirror of our own society, seeing the origins of our modern lives. The Sumerians taught us how to organize, how to record, and how to build, setting the stage for every human achievement that followed. Their story is a reminder that while empires are temporary, the power of human ingenuity is capable of creating things that last forever. So, the next time you look at a clock or read a page, remember the muddy plains of Mesopotamia and the people who started it all. Civilization is a continuous conversation, and we are still speaking the language that the Sumerians first taught the world so long ago. Beyond the invention of writing, Sumerian innovation laid the bedrock for the modern world, shaping how we live, measure, and build today. Their engineers mastered the challenging landscape by constructing vast networks of canals, turning arid plains into fertile, life-sustaining agricultural hubs for their people. In the realm of mathematics, they established a sophisticated base 60 system, a numerical legacy that still dictates the rhythm of our clocks and geometry. Towering ziggurats rose above the horizon, serving as the administrative and spiritual hearts of society, connecting the earthly realm to the divine heavens above. Yet, despite these monumental achievements, the Sumerian civilization eventually began to fade as rivers shifted their courses and political instability took hold by 2000 BCE. As the civilization slowly vanished into the desert sands of modern-day Iraq, it seemed as though their story might be lost to the tides of time. However, their core ideas proved to be truly immortal, transcending the physical collapse of their cities and the silence of their once bustling urban centers. Every time we sign a legal document, read a printed book, or measure the passing of time, We are participating in a legacy that refused to die. The true mystery is not why Sumer disappeared, but why its intellectual blueprint remains the essential foundation upon which all human progress is built today. Civilizations may eventually fall into ruin, but they continue to live on through the enduring, invisible power of the ideas they leave behind for us. This intellectual inheritance acts as a bridge across 5 millennia, linking our modern digital world directly back to the muddy banks of the ancient Euphrates. By understanding this legacy, we recognize that the story of Sumer is not just history. It is the ongoing story of human civilization itself.